and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. So the first item on our agenda tonight is board recognition. We have quite a bit of recognition, so I'm excited to share. I'd like to begin tonight with a little bit of an explanation, and then we'll jump to recognition. So developing a whole child is a priority of the board of directors. Our children cannot thrive if we do not provide social emotional skill development and support them to self-advocate and self-regulate. We want our students to form meaningful relationships within our schools and our community, and we cannot do this work alone. Tonight we have programs and partners to recognize that do an amazing job of supporting our learners who have some of the highest needs. So tonight, I would like to be able to scroll. I'd like to invite our preschool teams up to the podium. And I have to be honest, I don't know everyone personally just yet. So Amanda Miller, Megan Wellen, Michelle Cornia, Gina Roberts, Stephanie Ramirez, Sierra Schneider, April Bright, or Elizabeth Taylor are here. And you'll see me jumping up over there.
They were being shy.
Wonderful, thank you. Please join us at the podium. We have some chairs for you. And bring your chairs because they're the best part of this. Bring your kiddos. So on behalf of the board, we would like to express our gratitude for your flexibility in transitioning to your new classrooms. That is a monumental undertaking, and so we want to thank you for your work to do that. Following your move from OES all the way to PTR, which is close in a lot of people's worlds, but when you're moving boxes and supplies and all of that, I understand that is a lot. We also want to thank you for your dedication and the invaluable support you provide to our youngest learners. You start them off right in our district, so I'm really excited about that. And thank you for fostering their growth and development. So, stay put.
And board, you mind helping with some things? So we're going to do a photo over here with our PS team. And guests.
So we've got signatures, school district, goodies, the Scotties. I would barter you. Whoever's in there, you guys have to look good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and do a photo. This is the wall of fame.
Bring it in, bring it in.
Those two are related.
He's on his own.
You're not a teeny little baby.
Love it. And we're all going to be smiling. We got to squish together.
Here.
Yeah,
I want someone that's over
you
there.
guys in front.
That's okay. So I was like, I'm not with her. Here, come here. You can put in front. You don't need to. Shorter than front.
I'm gonna tag you for your daughter. Yeah, do you want me to? Oh, it's okay. That was fantastic. He's bringing the other ones.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
That's
also like to invite Kristen Kenyon and Iggy Butler. always ask people. So Kristen and Peggy are part of our ECAP program. We would like to express our gratitude to you and recognize the Pierce County Human Services Early Childhood Education and Assistance Program for providing no-cost early childhood education experiences to our qualifying preschool children in our community. These full-day services provide socialization and early learning opportunities that prepare our students to reach their fullest potential in kindergarten and beyond. So thank you for your partnership and your support of our Memphis program. Thank you. And we have special.
You know what to do. Come on over. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Several things, so we want to make sure that we're recognizing. Ready? Thank you. Thank you for
Just for your information for both ECAP and BVPS, we are fighting in this legislative session for about $3.6 million in funding. Once we secure that, that'll go with the $1.1 million we've already secured to build you a new facility. So stay tuned, advocate, call your elected officials.
And a garden.
And a garden. We have the community garden funds committed, so we're looking forward to that.
Right.
Okay, one more time. I would like to invite Catherine Zawalska. Zhao, like how? Zhao, okay, Zhao is Slack. Awesome. I love it. I'm trying really hard. All right, we'd like to express our gratitude and recognition to KZTA for your partnership in providing in-person mental health counseling services to qualifying students in all of our buildings during the school day. These services help remove barriers to learning for students by providing access to services during the school day that they may otherwise not be able to access. So thank you for your partnership and your support of our students. So we're going to do pictures. The pictures give us an opportunity to capture community attention and highlight the services that all of these individuals bring to our communities. One, two, three. Thank you very much. Very good, and we have a few more things to recognize. We're done with the photos for now, but it is really important for the board. We want to elevate and recognize the good work that's happening around our district. So I will turn it to the board for additional recognition.
I'll go ahead and kick it off with recognizing our Ording High School cheerleaders. All throughout the break, I saw all kinds of posts about them traveling across the country and across the pond to represent Ording. The high school cheerleaders flew to Florida to perform at the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and All-American cheerleader Haley Bond cheered in London's New Year's Day parade. Congratulations to them. That's awesome. They do a lot of work to support everybody in their school with all their sports, so it's really nice that they got to do some very fantastic things this year.
I'd like to just give a shout out to the Ording High School Knowledge Bowl. They beat Charles Rice, which I think is pretty amazing. And so just that good job, you know. public school, private school, and public school.
Yeah, they take off staff in February.
Oh, they do?
So the
Okay.
annual Students versus Staff competition is next month, and so far the students have a 5-year winning streak. So it's hard for me to decide who to root for. Underdogs or students.
I know where I put my money.
Orion Elementary kicked off the new year by celebrating the students during the monthly Cougar Pride Assembly. And thanks to the staff for organizing this and honoring the students. And I'd love to see pictures of how they are they doing it 2 times, or are they managing to get everybody in the gym?
I'll show you pictures.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I would like to recognize our bowling team. They are a new team, so this is year 3 for our bowlers. Am I correct in that? So our bowlers, which are Lady Cardinals, won their first match of the year this month against Fife, and they're currently second in league. So I'm a huge bowling, boarding bowling fan, and I'm super proud of those gals. And then just one more recognition. Our schools across the district honored Dr. Martin Luther King last week with special assemblies that recognized the work and legacy of Dr. King. Thank you to Marks Live, who visited our middle school for a special inspiring performance.
Oh, I wish I'd known that. Ruby Bridges was one of my heroes.
Yeah. So, a lot of good things happening in our district. It's been chilly in January and following the holidays. Everybody's going to take this a little bit to get going again, but our schools are hopping with some really cool things. So we're really proud of them. All right. So there's a tradition that we have here at our board meetings. First, you are warmly invited to stay for the duration of our meeting. You have a lot of things to look forward to that we're going to be talking about. However, many of our teachers and our kiddos, if you feel that now is a good time to head home, no hard feelings, no hard feelings at all. But again, you're welcome to stay if you like. But if you like,
Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not up the stairs, it's up to the car.
all right. Next item on the agenda is our superintendent's report. Or community comments. We'll just go to community comments next. Bonnie, did anybody sign up for comments?
No, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you very much. Now, we will go to our superintendent's report.
You know how sometimes you go out to a special dinner and then you eat the special dinner and then you're so full you don't have room for dessert? Today is an occasion where you don't have to turn down the dessert. Miss Lahua, would you come on up?
Oh, yay! Oh, we're still in business. All right.
As you know, she is a very talented young lady. She not only is very strong academically, involved in extracurricular activities, and has her own business. And can you share a little bit with the board about the special goodies you helped us create for Board Recognition Month?
So for the slices, I made Oreo cheesecake, and then the cupcakes are just vanilla topped with strawberries and whipped cream.
So we have for you tonight some slices of cheesecake that you can enjoy during board recognition. We have, during the superintendent report, we have some take-home treats that you can share or not share. And some tchotchkes for you, so Cabinet's going to help share some goodies. And to say thank you for everything that you do, we have a little tchotchke and treat for you. So thank you so much. You love here, I know. How's the business going? Are you staying active in the treat making?
So now I do more special requests because softball's getting really busy and it's recruiting season.
Wow, yes.
Any questions of Ms. Lahua, board, before we serve you up some fancy treats?
Just that we enjoyed them so much last time, that we're super excited about this time. This was a nice surprise. Thank you so much. And good luck with recruiting, softball recruiting.
Yes,
Very
that's
exciting.
right, that's right, softball.
But we hope this will keep selling here. Not sure where you went.
Food board meetings.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we snagged a photo with you with her, or just real quick if we can? And
Yeah.
With all the goodies.
all right, yeah, let's grab some. Yeah, give them some goodies. You deliver, and let's do a photo, and then we'll capture that moment.
I want us to like.
Yeah, you should hold some goodies or something. Oh my God, this looks so good. This is incredible. All right, where's the couple?
How many years have you been playing softball? 8 years? Wow. So what's recruiting for you?
Thank you, special. I'm coming, Miss Brittany, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And then you just wait for somebody to say you want you and...
They can't until September 1st of the year.
Oh, you're a
But they
sophomore.
can, yeah, I'm a sophomore.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Okay,
You ready?
fine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and all that. You might not be allowed to graduate. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, I know we got a couple more years, but we'll see.
I'll just take special orders for
There's forks and things like that. There's extra cheesecake over here. if you guys want some. Yes, yeah, there's forks and wouldn't want to deny anybody. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Appreciate you guys.
Okay. Moving on. So congratulations to you. Thank you for being volunteers and board directors. We appreciate everything you do, and we'll make sure to celebrate this moment on our social media page. And you get to keep that celebration going tonight, and maybe for a few more days to see how long the cupcakes last next week. I want to start the report. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, at my house they would not last days, so I know that much. I want to share a little bit with you about the facilities update so you can see kind of what's happening, because we will see some changes here coming up. What I've outlined in green is the future Orting Elementary School campus. So as you know, we have no more learning space at the elementary school and the high school. Every classroom is full. We are adding portable spaces. I'll share with you what that looks like in a moment. But based on our needs for our earliest learners, we've discussed and are going to move forward with moving the West Wing under Orting Elementary control for the 25-26 school year. That facility was built for early learning in mind. The size of the toilets, there's sinks in every classroom. Half the classrooms have that adjacent access to the playground. So that's what our campus will look like next year. Connie and her team have the job to figure out, okay, well, how do I reconfigure in light of that? Where would my grade levels go? That does add additional intervention and support space for her. She can reconfigure health room or main office. So part of her planning, working with our facilities team, is what am I going to do with that and what's it going to look like? But it really fixes some space issues that they have for that school. We have to think about what will the parking and traffic routing plan look like for next year. So we have some work to do in that regard. So that's the elementary. Looking at your high school campus, I'm not getting this to go this one.
Yep, you just got it.
No, that did it. I'm sorry. We got a delay. Can you back one for me?
Yeah.
This is what your high school campus will look like this spring, with a yellow box included for high school parking. So as you know, we purchased 65 adjacent acres, which we hope someday will be the site of the new Orting Elementary School. We're going to take a look at that yellow box to the top and the left, and that's going to be somewhere between 70 and 100 parking spaces shortly after spring break. So as you can see, the campus, it is spread out. Someday we hope that changes to a future high school that's all under one roof, but we don't have that yet. So when we look at what's happening there, the idea of the elementary school taking the west wing does not add space when we add 8 classrooms, because that's a trade for the high school. So it adds capacity to the elementary. High school's a net, not either a gain or a loss, because the 8 classrooms will go to high school use. That still means there's shortage of restrooms, and this one's going to create a little bit of a bottleneck in 2 places, but there are no other options. So I want to show you what that looks like. Part of the move related to early learning and the displacement of developmental preschool is to make room for portables. So when you look right there, that's the eventual, not next year, but the year after, what it will look like with 4 portables in that space. And what you're already seeing disappear as a result is parking. So this spring, we will have 1 to 2 portables in that location, and we're going to start from the left and work to the right. We believe that slope area on portable number 2 that kind of drops off, we can put enough retaining walls and such to shore that up and have enough room for that second portable. And then we'll move the parking where portable 3 and portable 4 are, so there will be additional parking for OES 4 this year. So that will happen this spring. But you can see the trajectory of where this is going. By the time you get portable 3 and portable 4 there, that displaces further parking. And there's nowhere else to put any additional learning space. So the high school, on the front side of things, that's the other place we're going to put portables. And I want you to see what that looks like, because this is going to get a, now this is a cruder picture. This is the difference between Curtis's picture and my picture. But if you see the gray right there, those 3 grayed out areas are where 3 double portables will be going at spring break. So that not only closes off 3 rows of parking, but it eliminates our ability for ingress and egress at the top picture where they kind of meet the buses. So we're going to have to reroute and make sure drivers are accustomed to backing out through that one-way in, or because our buses are going to be lined up in head-in angle parking, they will have to wait to leave until all of the buses have left, because we can't have the buses and the high school traffic at the same intersection at the same time. There's no way to do that. So right now we're leaning on 3 portables in that area in an H shape. We will have a 10-foot wide walkway all the way down in between, so they can share the same ramps and share the same access. It's easier to supervise and actually separates the pedestrians so that we don't have entering and exit across where traffic is going. So create a little bit of a safer scenario in that regard, because there's a rail in between the 2 portables closest to the high school. Now keep in mind that where they normally were using that restroom in the west wing, they won't have access to that. Which is part of the reason when we add this space why it made sense to move our littles to the interior space in the west wing, because you don't want to cross roads or have that lack of supervision for your youngest learners. So next year, to finish this off, the portable in red will come, and then we will add the other 3 behind. And that will complete the picture of how we're going to add space. After we do this move, there really is no more room at the high school or the elementary to add learning space, because if you keep in mind our construction plan, when we do pass the bond, the CTE wing and the portable displacement for that construction will take up additional parking. So we have to hold that space for construction. I wanted you to share, or just see a little bit about how is Orting School District navigating the Pierce County issue and the growth that they approve, and what are we doing to make sure that growth pays for growth. This is just an excerpt of a letter that your attorney, Denise Stiffarm, submitted to Pierce County related to proposed development. There's a couple key pieces there I thought the public and I thought you would appreciate seeing, just having that information. One, if you take a look at the actual cost per student of what does it take per student to build a new facility, that price point is over $51,000. We do get some tax credits as a result. So We can't claim that as the true cost, so by the time you factor in that tax credit, it actually costs little over $40,000 per each student to construct a new facility. And you can see her language in the letter, which is grossly inadequate and insufficient. So as your representative and legal authority, she is making it very clear to Pierce County that their current funding system disproportionately puts a burden on the existing taxpayer because we only get 11% of the actual cost. So right now, this year in 2025, we will collect $4,595 in an impact fee, and you can see the actual cost is many, many times that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that every time there is a proposed development on your behalf, she is providing that feedback back to Pierce County and continuing that conversation as best as we can about adequate funding so that growth is helping to pay a greater share of the cost of growth. Looking at cabinet changes, some of your advisors over there to the left on the side will not be here next year. Executive Director Steve Rabb has announced his retirement, so June 30th will be his last day. Executive Director Debbie Christensen has announced her retirement. June 30th will be her last day. Erin Lee will have a title change, and we're going to shuffle some duties. So Erin Lee will be a Director of Teaching and Learning and Assessment over there. So we're going to take some of Steve's job, and that'll go to Erin. Some of Steve's job will go to Jennifer. We're going to hire a new Executive Director of Business and Operations, which will take some of what I do. And then we're going to shuffle that around and try to build some long-term continuity moving forward. So Erin and Jennifer at this point will be back in the show, but it's spring. You'll decide whether I'm coming back here in a few hours, so we'll see how things go. But that's what we know so far about changes.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Yes.
That's exciting.
You will be sorely missed.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you now have a tchotchke, a water bottle, so there's no reason you can't go get outside right now, sometime this weekend, and do something active. We are still moving forward with our Get Outside OSD campaign. We have students that went out and did hiking, played in the snow. I have some adventures posted. If you go out and do something fun and active, hashtag it to Get Outside OSD, and we have stickers that you can put on your water bottle to commemorate your adventure. I wanted to share this a little bit because also on your behalf, we're continuing that conversation with our state legislators about adequate funding in public schools. So there is the Big Three initiative, which is a combined supported initiative with WASA, AWSP, WASDA, which is your governing agency. And why the Big Three? Special education, transportation, and materials and supplies and operating costs are all constitutionally required and guaranteed to amply fund public education. However, just in our district alone, if you look at the difference from 2020 till right now today of what the gap is between our actual costs and what the state funds in those constitutionally required areas, we are having to make up a gap of $6.9 million. So Marcy and team helped to do the math, create a graphic, and so we sent that to all of the elected officials on the 25th and the 31st to really bring attention to what those costs are and how that impacts us. Because if you think about $1.4 million per year and you think through the types of social emotional support we can provide, the enhanced teaching and learning we can provide, and the things we can do proactive for kids that we're not otherwise able to do because we have to pay for insurance and tires and gas, it's a travesty. And so we're keeping that conversation going at the state level and really hoping this legislative session we see some enhanced funding that fulfills the promise that's constitutionally required to provide for every child in the state. And I'll obviously keep you posted on how things are going as we move through session. Peer mediation. To keep up with that ongoing commitment of putting kids in the driver's seat, building that agency, we've had our high school, middle school counselors combined to do the training this year. Last year they hired outside consultants, and Vice Principal Carlson was leading the way. So we had over 30 students getting trained for this year and next year for the peer mediation program. I really hope we can hear some of those stories at your board work sessions because what we saw was really encouraging last year, and they had a lot of fun. And this is a little role play we captured with some of our middle school students where they actually practice negotiating and working through conflict with each other. The Dignity is alive and well. Card's Way is a little card I captured on the left, and you'll see that poster now in all of your high school classrooms, and they're really working with students to do walkthroughs to capture and celebrate where they see moments of those ideals that they've co-created and built in action. High school, or middle school, you can start to see their SOAR acronym, which is how they're trying to personalize the Dignity effort, and that's taking shape in posters and language and trying to really codify that vision and build celebrations and connectivity around it. Elementary schools, also strong. I wanted to share on the next slide what it looks like. You can see a very full gymnasium. That's what it looks like right now. I don't know how we're getting 800 or 900 students there, but their trait last month was empathy. So you can see the smiles on their faces as they were recognized and supported across every class, with really building that character trait around empathy. You're going to see some voices in a little bit, which I'm stoked about. Last time we were here, I played a little snippet of what the elementary sounded like, and all of them chanting and singing. And I got a new one here to share coming up. So this is a Martin Luther King Jr. Assembly. You just saw a couple pictures. I wanted to share just a little bit of Mr. Garcia, how he's leading them in the MLK Assembly at PTR, just so you get a sense of what that sounded like. That's just warm my heart. Anytime they read or sing or do things together, I just think it's super cool.
You sounded pretty good.
He did sound very good. He's been doing a lot of work. So a lot of dignity work in action through the MLK assemblies and trying to reinforce that, and what does that look like. And then the very last slide I have for you is I took a picture that I thought was appropriate. Keep going a couple more there if you don't mind, Miss Bond. One more. I saw this picture and I thought of you and I thought of the conversation you're having. I have a dream, and I know you have a dream about new facilities in the Orting School District. Last week you came together and discussed the idea of a bond task force, how to really build partnership within the local community and build that co-creation, the co-voice about where do we go and what do we do and what's the best way to communicate our needs. So I sent a draft via email to each of you today, reflecting that conversation you had last Thursday. Once you give us the go-ahead, Brittany and I will be able to go ahead and start to post that. But we need something from two of you, which is Director Madigan, Director Thibodeau. We'll need to know what kind of information do you want people to put in the application. Brittany and I can work together to create a form. And then you'll have to let us know, do you want to just recognize and bring people on with their application? Do you want to run an interview process? But we're just looking for clarification, not this moment, but sometime if you could just take a look at what we sent, let us know if we got to go ahead, if that met your approval. And then we can just iron up those couple of details about what you'd like to do with the application interview process. We will go out and we'll try to find at least 5 to 6 community people that can work to look at our enrollment, look at our forecast, our current facilities condition, what the current life is like in our lunchrooms and hallways. And then we're going to bring that group up to speed with the two of you and the community so that we can come together and hopefully co-create a recommendation that you can endorse for a future bond somewhere maybe in November 2025. So that's what's sitting in your inbox right now. I just want to make sure we adequately captured your wishes from last Thursday board work session, and that concludes my report. With cheesecake.
Perfect. Thank you for the draft. I did have some thoughts on that, so I'll send those to you under separate message. And appreciate you for putting that together.
Absolutely.
Just board, so you're aware, since we didn't talk about it, I just want to make sure we're clear on the composition of the committee and that we're emphasizing the 5 community members and the necessity of having 5 from the community in order for the task force to exist. And then as well as I want to specifically have student voice represented on the committee, so I want to highlight that in the description as well. So those are just some of my comments, but I'll send those out. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then please do review if any other additional comments you have. let's get those in because our turnaround time for this is quite short.
I didn't have any comments on today.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you. So, first report of the night, again, elevating student voice to the top of our list. I'd like to ask Carly to share our student report.
As you can tell, I'm here alone today. Jaden today. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous because I usually lean on him a little bit. And today I got a lot. It's very, same things that we've been typically doing with the student advisory, with getting student voice and really emphasizing that. In November, when we went to the Wazzer conference in Spokane, that was such like a crucial time for me, and I feel like I really gained a lot from that. And one of the biggest things I wanted to implement and that I got from it, and I was like, okay, well, I gotta put this in action, is getting a diverse audience for feedback. One of the other school board representatives that was in like the crowd when we were presenting, he asked me a question about how I really get other people's perspectives or like get diverse. And it kind of stuck me because it's in the works. And in all honesty, today's information that I got is not that diverse because we had efforts. Mr. Freeze was able to put together a group of students, not your typical like leadership students and students who are super involved and really put themselves out there, but kind of students that are like from every little different thing he notices, like different interests and other things like that. He kind of pulled together a group, which was really awesome. I saw the list of the students of the voice of the list of the students that he had, and I didn't recognize a lot of those names, which was like, oh, this is like really diverse. There was like a couple I knew and then a couple I didn't. Fortunately, with that being said, a lot of those students, since they typically do stray away from being involved, we could not get really in touch with them, especially like with this last week. The semester ended this week, so a lot of people are doing finals, and so the free time that they had, they were using it to study for their stuff and other stuff like that, and I didn't really take into account of that, so a lot of students were unable to come. But we did get voice from 3 students, but they are typically involved in leadership students, and I kind of made them because they're in my leadership class. And so I was like, I need somebody. But they did have a lot of good things to say. I really wanted to focus on belonging within the school and the power of student voice. Feel like whether or not they feel belonging through being loved, present, needed, welcomed, cared for, supported, accepted, befriended, invited, heard, or involved. And so just asking a couple of questions. These ones I kind of came up on my own and just like free conversation flow. One of the ones that I got from another student board rep at the Wazzer conference was, if you were a school representative, what would you tell our school board? To summarize a lot of what they said that a lot of the staff and the teachers are very good people and they make connections really, really well. And that's something that we've seen in all of our schools. We've seen that teachers are like kind of the glue that holds it all together. Connections is really what gets to a lot of people, and a lot of people are able to hold on to that. But what we see differently compared to the middle school and elementary school level is that once we reach a level of difficulty in material of like actual like the classwork that we're doing, it can feel like there's a lack of depth in learning. Sometimes it feels like material is being thrown at you without learning and applying it to daily life. And so it feels sometimes discouraging to a lot of students on like, why am I learning this if I'm just gonna watch a YouTube video and take notes on it type of thing. So that was something that was a lot different from what we've heard with like before, because I think it's definitely definitely because it's high school. And high school is, I think, a completely different environment and dynamic between relationships and what you're experiencing and everyone else is, like, compared to middle school and elementary school. So that was one thing. And another thing is within the high school, students feel as if there's a lack of spirit, which will be brought up multiple times. I understand that a lot. It's something that is my biggest goal to get into our schools, of like understanding that there's no shame in throwing yourself out there and having fun and cheering for your school and being proud of where you come from and what school you go to. And I think it's just, especially with being an ASB at the high school right now, it's like our biggest goal of trying to like get really that whole student body engagement and the pep assemblies and make sure everyone's like cheering and getting excited. Which it's still in the works because we can't force anyone to do anything, but we want them to be able to be comfortable in an environment where they want to do those things. So.
I don't think they understand how much fun it can be because they haven't experienced it.
Yeah. Which I'll circle back to that because there's more to that, but it's a separate question that I got that from. But the second question I asked is, if you were a superintendent, what's the first thing you would promote online or be proud to bring awareness to? And a lot of the, two of the students said the same things, saying that Ording has a lot of opportunities for students, and it feels like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves, especially with the college and high school program. And being able to challenge students and set them up for success. Also, those classes being funded is like huge. And also being able to take certain tests that other schools typically you would like have to pay for, like pretty sure like the ACT or something like that, where we have the opportunity to like excel in those areas without having to worry about anything else. It takes a lot of the pressure and stress off, and so having those is something that should like not to brag about, but it's something we can brag about. Like that's a really really cool opportunity. Like it's opportunity that I feel like a lot of people, one, don't even know what's going on, and two, is having such a huge impact and having it be recognized to get the recognition it really deserves. So that was really awesome that they actually brought that up, and like, yeah, this is really cool. So yeah, this is where we're gonna circle back to spirit. The question was, do you feel as if we're teaching or expecting people to know who we are as a community? Kind of strayed away from that.
Could you say that one more time?
The question was, do you feel as if we're teaching or expecting people to know who we are as a community? And they kind of just defined what our community was to them instead of that question. But it's fine because I don't really care. So they said basically that we hope to make an environment more welcoming, and that people view our community very differently depending on age. And they say that older people view it more welcoming, while younger and other high schoolers are very fond of Ording. And that students sometimes are proud to say that they're from Ording because it has a reputation and a view of irrelevance. So an example that one of the students used was like Sumner, since it's a bigger school. Like when they think of Ording, it's like, oh, it's a small valley school. And like, I mean, what big deal is Ording, you know? And then another student had something to counter that, and they were like, well, I think that we have a good reputation depending on where you are, like how you're involved in the school. Like Ording's wrestling team is huge, and when you say you're from Ording and you're in a wrestling environment, then they're like, oh, that's really cool. And then usually, since it's a small school, it's associated with like farming and country, There's a couple times I brought up I'm from Ording, and they're like, oh, you're from the Yeehaw school. And I'm just like, I don't know, I don't think so. But it's very different. Yeah, so it's just what you're involved in and what you see, it has a different perspective on what Ording is. But in other, like I said earlier, in the wrestling sense, Ording is considered super cool, but in like other ways, sometimes it's just a small school. And it was kind of sad to hear about. I heard and I was like, oh, I realized like some of our programs are super big, but the other, like we don't get recognition for a lot of the amazing things that we're doing, just because I think it's not normalized. I think it's something that we don't think about doing because it's never done before, I guess. I think everything that I got from talking to them was mainly about breaking old stereotypes and saying things and really having a different approach on promoting our school and what our goals are and understanding what Ording is. I feel like mainly people have this reputation and see you on Ording because of what big things happen, and then we post it everywhere, and everyone reposts it, and it's like, oh, it's super cool. But then when we don't bring up the things that are happening that are super cool, but it's not typical topic, then it's just kind of like brushed off. Which is, it's hard to, drill something new into people. But I mean, just starting is what you gotta do. And then it's basically said that we should build a building school spirit shouldn't matter the size of the school. And then one huge thing that got brought up a lot was that since Ording is such a small community, everyone's known each other since we were all super little. And everyone's known and seen because we all knew each other when we were super little. And everyone, you have a first impression of someone, or you hear things about the people, you build this reputation. And so one thing that I feel limits a lot of school spirit and limits a lot of people being more involved is the fear that they're going to be judged. Especially because just like it's not what they typically do, so it's like, oh,
They're going to be judged because they'll feel like they're looked at weird because they're having school spirit. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, a lot of the time it's like they're worried that you're not playing into your role that you built when you were 7.
Okay.
Right.
And so it's this really hard thing you have to change, and you can't just expect somebody one day to just, get over that fear of judgment and get over that fear of putting yourself out there because you're not falling in line of what you typically do. Just because what you would typically do 5 years ago is different from what you would do now. So that reputation changes, but the mindset of what people view you as is the same as what you were when you were little. So really, it's really hard to encourage to get rid of stigmas that we made when we were little. But bringing that up, I asked more questions underneath our goals, academic growth, whole child, student support, and those things. Under whole child, I asked in what ways does your school promote well-being as a whole person, for example, the Cars Way cards, the spirit posters on the school, those type of things. Most of the time it was recognizing school spirit and getting into more school spirit is hoping to be simple recognitions of more individualized student recognitions to have to be seen as a student, and really having recognition, being seen into your school, and getting rid of that reputation that you might have built before. Encouraging that school spirit as well. This wasn't like maybe like the sense of like maybe a pep assembly and people are being brought into, you like brought down because, oh, you did this in your sport or you did this or whatever. To get excited during those pep assemblies and to really feel like happy and encouraged because you have all these people cheering for you and you've like never recognized it or been in that situation before. But a lot of students are scared to put themselves in that position to get involved because of that judgment again. And like you're always seen no matter what because it's such a small community. And people have a lot of struggle feeling like they have no place to have a fresh start or to have other people perceive them in a new way or in a different way. Which is really difficult for a lot of people, and I feel like I also resonate a lot with that, and I understand why that happens, and it's really hard to have how do you kind of break away from that, because I think it's like human nature as well. So,
Can I ask you who plans your pep rallies and things like that?
our pep assemblies are planned from the ASB.
The ASB?
Yeah, and just ASB students, leadership students as well, kind of whoever is in the room when we're having a meeting.
Because I kind of feel like what you're saying is what having school spirit does, is instead of it being you're different in a school, it's like your school and then against another school. So it's like you're building that camaraderie just because you're all from Ording. You understand what I'm saying? It's like at a game, you're all sitting on, you're not alike. You don't even hang out sometimes, but you're all rooting for Ording, so you're all united there. And I think if that school spirit is missing, then that takes away from area to be united in.
For sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because as an adult looking at our schools, that longevity that students have with each other has been a source of pride for our community for a long time, but I can see how it kind of could be limiting for students as they change and grow and develop other characteristics, and the students are still viewing them in that old light. So we need to create more space for them to be different and to be safe to come out of whatever form, shape, shell they might have been in, and to behave and act and
To be different and to be together.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, different but together.
Yeah.
I like that. Interesting.
It's so funny you bring that up because that is like my one thing that I always say is we need school spirit. We were just at the basketball game and we were playing Eatonville and it's like, where are all the kids? There's like no one there and it's like, how do you get in there? I don't know, but
That's the biggest problem is how do we do it?
yeah.
I feel like I'm so aware of this problem and so aware that like I wish that we were more open to have that come into our schools. But how do I even start it?
You know what, though, there's so much value in being invited to participate and having, I've been on the side of trying to change behavior and cultural change within companies and other types of organizations, and that changing behavior is the hardest thing to change. So if you're not seeing like an immediate shift, I would not give up. I would keep asking the questions, even if the kids, you're trying to get a more diverse response from the kids, and if they weren't able to participate this time, ask them again, and ask them again, and ask them again. And the fact that you're having these conversations with students and they're getting an opportunity to talk about, this idea of not feeling comfortable stepping out and being different with school spirit. I mean, that's a huge step forward in and of itself. So I'm proud of you for doing that. I want to encourage you to keep going, because that'll unlock doors for kids too.
And maybe just looking too at how you're planning it, and maybe you need to have it a little bit more like a committee, or something where you have all kinds of different kids and you can have a set committee instead of just kind of whoever wrote, you know what I'm saying? And just have, because if you're together and you plan it, you might be able to plan things that can really be fun and be worthwhile, and you're getting different opinions, but it's organized. So.
We also asked questions about academic growth. How has high school changed for you academically over the time you've been attending? Is it less stressful, harder, easier? A senior said that they have feelings of things being more expected and more pressure on them as a student as they go up there over time, because you are maturing and you're getting older, and so it's a lot more pressure, which can be more stressful. But also, he mentioned that each grade has their own challenges. So right now, his biggest struggle is that graduation and what to do after high school really all hit at once for him. And it's a very stressful environment, and he can say the same for all his friends, that it was something that he wasn't really prepared for, and like wish he knew more, like before he actually began his senior year. And then other students said basically finals, and I think he said the thing is about finals, I understand it, like there's really not a whole lot we can do about that. But something that he said that was like, he said making a mistake and no way to come back from it. I was like, it's like if I fail my final, that's my semester grade. And that was like all that semester hard. Like I worked all semester and then one test is gonna ruin it. So it was something that was like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to bring that up. I think about that too, a lot.
So you're saying that just the test itself is determining the grade and not any of the other?
It has a big pull on the grade. So like, for example, I just finished a 3-day final in my pre-calc class. And I think it has like, maybe 40% full on my goal right now. And so like, if you're already like, say like you have a B and then you do kind of poorly in that class, it can drop to like C or D. And that's like a big difference. And so it's a lot of stress that's kind of put on right now in this season, like end of semester type of thing. Also because finals didn't really come up until, like you don't really experience finals and really what they are until like, and especially like freshman year, I don't think I had a single final, and then sophomore year, I went into a college class, and it shocked me, that was for sure. But yeah. And then, last question about student support. I asked, how can we lift each other up, and if we need help to know where to go or what to do? If not, how can we change that? We heard that there's a lot of opportunity to seek guidance, especially with the counselors. But a lot of the students don't realize how much they can do outside of just putting our schedules together and other things like that. Students don't feel like they are able to reach out a lot of the time because they don't realize what they can do, what counselors can do, and what everyone in that counseling office can do. Rather than just, hey, I'm having this, I need my schedule changed for second semester. Okay, thank you. Or this is what I want to do in college, help me. Instead of like that emotional support. And to need help if you need help, that really you have a safe place to go. And I think a lot of students don't understand that that is a safe place for them, as well as, I don't know how to go with that.
Carly, do you think, if a student needs some emotional support or to talk something out, do you think they lean to their teachers first before they would go to a counselor?
I think for sure. I think a lot of, the next bullet point I even have is that each student feels as if they have a trusted teacher or staff that they can turn to for guidance and support.
Because we've seen that in our student data where they feel like the teachers really care and they're trusted, and And maybe there's just some more informing that we can do around counseling services
Yeah, I
to give
think,
them an option, an
Yeah.
additional option.
I think counseling, says, I think it's just because a lot of the students don't really know counseling at all. I think the last time I saw my counselor in person was my freshman year. But I think that's why that they have that connection, that relationship. Sometimes it's a little concerning for me though, as if like, what if you don't have that teacher or that staff member that you really are connected to and resonate with? And so do you know that you have a safe place to really go?
Or you had one and then the semester changed
Yeah.
and now that relationship, the relationships are new,
Yeah.
you know, something like that.
So-
Yeah, interesting.
Just like, I was just hoping like, this is more like in the school and talk to ASB or whatever, but to really promote our counseling center.
Yeah.
Understand like their kind of what they're kind of hired and trained to do and what their knowledge in, or knowledge in, but what they have knowledge in. So
So when you were talking about just all of a sudden you're graduating and you're not sure what to do and things, but do the kids take the opportunities from the school when they provide them with the different testings for what to do, for personalities, and do they, every year they do something right? Yeah, are they all involved in that?
I don't know, I doubt every student is or everyone is really like, because a lot of the time you hear it and they're like, oh, that's stressful, I don't want to worry about it. So they like veer away from it. I know that our careers counselor, she's been very active in like making sure she's reaching out to, especially seniors, but reaching out to students and emailing and saying, hey, this is a test opportunity, like come to my office or do this, and she's very open, which is really cool. I think a lot of the time people will just see the email and they're like college and they're like, oh, and they click out of it.
Just think it's just for college instead of
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, so, I think it's just another thing of being like not misinformed, but just like don't have a full grasp of like what really is it. So,
Interesting. Alex graduated in 2023, and so just, you know, a year ago, and so there is a ton of support and information from our counseling centers for whether it's career path or making sure they've got all the boxes checked for graduation. There's just so much support there, but to your point, it's a lot on top of their normal classes and other engagement things that students are involved in, so it is a lot. I hear that, I feel it.
yeah.
Yeah. Separate little classes.
Yeah, really. An 8th period for the day.
I really loved your questions that you asked.
Yes.
Those questions that you composed were phenomenal.
Yeah,
Very good.
super interesting.
It's just like you learned about, when they talked about making the rules at the beginning of the year. Seems like maybe we could figure out some way to have more of an advisory kind of time once in a while to address these kinds of things, you know? Sort of like like middle school, you used to have advisory during the day, you know, that kind of an advisory time, once a month or something, that just shares that pertinent kind of information, or just builds those bonds somewhat. So
It's almost like you want a common sense class where this is what you have to do. You don't have the option. You have to take these tests. You have to go visit so many places. You have to look at financial aid. I mean, you know, this is part of your by the time you're senior, you have to have these things done. Because that's big, that's important. You know, if they come to their senior year,
Yeah, they do have that.
and did they make everyone do it?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and there's lots of support for it.
At the, we have built-in cards time, so that's kind of like an advisory time, I guess. And we'll have like required lessons, and they'll be through school links, and it's kind of here's what you have to know for, they're like tasks that you have to do, and they're like little lessons that you
On
do
your computer.
on your computer, yeah. They're little computer things. And I'll be completely honest with you, they're a lot. It's a lot of like information thrown at you at once, and then you have to take a survey and you have to fill out, does this career interest you? And it's like this whole thing, and a lot of the time, since there's a little like due date, I just like click through it and I'm like, yes. To just kind of get it out of the way. So I think the information is there. It's just a lot of students, it's just.
But doing it that way doesn't create any relationships or connections or the feeling like you can go to this person.
Yeah.
So, something to think about.
Good information. Carla, was there anything, so it's super valuable for all of us board members, like just hearing authentic student voice, and I completely agree with Melissa, great questions. Is there anything that we can do that you're like, ooh, you know, if the board did this, we could help? And if the answer is no, that's okay. Well, we take what you share with us, and it helps us as we're reviewing policy, and we're talking about, you know, budget strategy, with Ed and his team. Like, all of this is really good. I call it brain food. You know, this is the kind of stuff we need to be strong directors, and so it's really valuable, even if there's not a specific task takeaway for us. But I do want you to know that you can ask us for stuff, and that's what we're here to do, so.
Yeah, I was a little worried about this one because typically I think most of the reports that I used to me and Jaden have are like, look at how awesome this is and how amazing this is.
But it's good for us to hear the stuff, you know, the things that.
You made me think of something when you were talking about the students not, maybe they don't recognize all the cool things that we are doing within the district. And it made me think, there was something a few years ago where I was like, oh, you know, of course. And both my boys who were at the high school at the same time, neither one had a clue that this was going on. And it's their classmates. And I'm like, how do you not know this is happening? And I feel like as a district, we're very strong at, you know, sharing messages. You know, there's like 5-6 posts a day of what's happening in the school and what are the kids doing. But I'm just wondering, maybe the students aren't seeing that. They're not getting to experience some of that good. And I don't know how to change that. I would look back to you as a student leader and like, how can we do more sharing within the buildings of all the good things that are happening? And maybe it'll inspire somebody who's, you know, prefers the lone wolf path. Maybe it would inspire them to get involved in something new.
Oh, and that's something that we've been trying to, like, information and getting everything out and really, like, trying to get people involved in the know of things. And a lot of the time, like, we've gotten to the points of, like, putting information on bathroom stalls. So if you're, like, going to the bathroom, you can see, we call it potty talk. And, like, we did all of that. We would make the videos, we make the fun, like, little reel things and, like, all of that stuff. And a lot of the time, the information will get out, but I think sometimes I feel like it's lack of interest. And a lot of the time I feel like people are only really interested if your friend's interested or somebody else near you is interested. So I think it's like kind of less about, okay, how much are we putting out, but like what for like the people around us in the schools. My thing is, I think I want to really emphasize student leaders and like kind of give them a bigger role than they already have now. I think more just like, if you're going to be a leader, you have to kind of be your own little promotional like,
From what I'm hearing from you though, the process of what you're doing and you're thinking outside the box, the whole, the potty talking, you might not be seeing results this week or next week, but eventually you will, and that's just going to make it all the better. And you're always going to have apathy or inactivity with certain things, and not everybody's going to be involved with everything. But you keep pushing and thinking outside the box that way, and eventually it will be something that everybody finds
just, I know this is not like advisory session, but I would share that one of the definitions of leadership is influence, and so to keep trying. And then also that these same life lessons and skills that you're developing by trying all of this, they apply outside of school too. So one of the comments you made is students don't understand why. Why are we doing this? Why am I learning this? This is very applicable in your next career, your next school, if you're going to higher ed, even family and other types of groups. All of this will be relevant. So hopefully you can share that story and keep going. Really appreciate your report. It was great. I know you didn't have Jaden here today, but you did a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. I think we all took some notes.
Yeah.
Lots to ponder. And if you need us to wear a certain color shirt on a certain day, just say the word. We're on it. All right. We have financial reports times 2. October and November financial reports. I didn't see any probing questions come through this time. All is well? All is well. Very good. And again, a reminder for our community that at any point you ever have a question about any of our financial reports or the detail behind it, Director Bannon is always available to answer those questions. We all have the benefit of reviewing this in detail prior to this meeting, so we don't talk about it here in great detail. But if ever there's a question, we can get to the bottom of it. All right, next item on the list is theft-sensitive assets. It was interesting for me to see that the count of devices that were missing has gone up this year, but I was not surprised. I think as we are leveraging technology more and more and more in our schools, that this probably is not something that's going to decline over time. But were there any, I did not have any questions. It was interesting to know that I didn't have questions. Make sure nobody else did. No?
I'm just glad we're keeping track of everything.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And I appreciate the IT team's work to find, I had to find my phone the other day. I get it. It's not easy. It's dramatic. Perfect. The next item on our agenda is our annual Budget 101 presentation, and this is presented by Director Bannon. This will be, our board, we've now been through this multiple times, and we do make sure that it is a part of our agenda because it is important, not only to put a structured spot in our calendar to ask questions and seek clarification, but also that we can share this with the community as public record, and anyone at any point can come and ask questions. So since we've been through this multiple times, I would just ask the board if you have anything specific. And I also want to qualify, so there's your home budget and how you manage your home personal finances, and there are commercial company corporate budgets, and that school funding and school budgeting is a unique monster all in and of itself. So no question is a bad question. And even if you've been doing this for multiple years, I still have questions sometimes. So I just want to create the safe space for really basic questions if anybody has them.
I just want to say, I am always so happy that I know where this is, because I understand it every time when there's the presentation and when I'm reading it, and then, because it's so complicated, I don't remember all of that, but I know where to look when I am trying to figure something out. And that's one thing I wanted to share with the community here, that Budget 101 is like the most wonderful cliff notes on how a school budget works And it is a beast, and but it is a very well-ordered, well-defined beast. And thank you for putting that together, because it is my Cliff Notes.
Yeah. Okay. So with
We
that,
always depend on you, and sometimes I feel like I always take you for granted, because it's like I won't check as much as I should, because I think it's you, and it's like, well, I trust her.
you're supposed to admit that out loud. Jen.
Opposite.
On the other side, I even balance my checkbook at home to the penny. So if there's a penny off, I do go in for it, because there's a reason it's a penny off. So,
I love it. Yeah, yeah. Well, I do go through it. I go through the financial reports. They are always nice and tight.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So with no questions, I believe this could be the first year, at least in my time on board, that will spare you a budget 101 presentation.
I am glad to help anytime I can, and you have it if you need it, but you know where to find me if you have questions too, so.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All right. So previously, we had an enormous list of first reading policy considerations. This is our second reading. And so I would ask the board if there's any further discussion on these, or is there a motion to approve them?
I'll move to approve the second reading of policy considerations.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That's a good action.
How many was it this time?
Three, four, five, six.
Was this the 34 one?
It was more than that,
It was more than 34?
The call, the
14, 15.
procedures were.
16, yes, 16 documents. And there's a wide range of topics, and I invite anyone who's curious to look at board docs. All the documents are there. All right, so the next items are consent agenda, which includes vouchers, personnel changes, our interlocal cooperative agreement with Bates Technical College, and then our board meeting minutes. So if there's no discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right. So speaking of whole child, thank you, Carly, for setting this up. We have our whole child resolution, and it's a proclamation that January 2025 will be Whole Child Month in Orion School District. So if there's no discussion on that, if everybody's on board, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1.2024-2025, Whole Child Proclamation.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And the next item for action is presented by Director Rao.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just take a few minutes to kind of highlight a couple of things different with our highly capable plan. Normally each year it's just kind of a routine that we go through the process with OSPI, get the funding, and then we continue to lean into the plan. What we've been doing over the last couple of years is trying to figure out how best to identify and serve the students that are in our population. And when we look at the demographic breakdown, we realize that even though we have a growing population of English language learners, we have no English language learners identified for highly capable. The probability, the fact that there aren't any, English language learners that are highly capable is pretty small. So we started to look at our identification process and recognize what some of the pieces are that are related to that, as well as looking at our program overall and just trying to rethink how are we accurately communicating what it is that we're offering. So I want to take just a few minutes with you to just talk about what some of those changes are that we have in the plan. So we're changing the language in the plan from program to services. One of the things that we recognize is that families that come to our district want to know what our program is. And oftentimes these people come from larger systems where that program can be a pull-out program, could be a separate school, and then they come here and it doesn't look anything like that. And one of the things that we think could lead people a little bit astray about that is that language of using program instead of services. So all through our plan that is posted on the district website, that language from program to services has been changed. We're also trying to change some language around identified need versus qualification. Again, trying to minimize this idea of the haves and the have-nots and really kind of leaning into this idea of identifying student needs for each individual student and then try to address that as well. I think in the future, I only think this because the future won't have me here, but I believe that, and Dr. Lee and I have had more than one conversation on this. When we talk about MTSS, our multi-tiered student support system, a lot of times we're talking about those kids that aren't making it, that are in the bottom quartile, and we're trying to figure out ways to move them up. Highly capable students are also part of that system. That system approaches from both sides. When you have a student that is highly capable and you're not providing the kind of services that accelerates that student based on what they're capable of doing, that's inequitable. And so one of the things that we will be looking at is a multidisciplinary approach to this and include, when we're having conversations about the kids in our systems that are being served according to their needs, we're also including our high-cap kids. And did it go there too? Yeah, good. Went out? Okay, there you go. I think you guys have this published here, so I'll just go right off of here. One of the other things that we're changing is providing services starting in 3rd grade instead of starting in kindergarten. And I want to be really specific about that because I did talk to OSPI, and in our plan we talk about providing services K-12. That is exactly right. We'll continue to provide services for kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. But identification for highly capable will begin with that 2nd grade screener for 3rd grade all the rest of the way through. There's some good reasons.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Say it one more time.
Yeah, I probably twisted it up a
It's
little
okay.
bit. So there's a difference between providing services and identification as highly capable. Right now, we're testing kindergarten 1st graders who are referred. We screen all 2nd graders. We screen all 5th graders. But any kindergartners or 1st graders that are referred, we would test them. And if they meet the capability, we would identify them as highly capable. There's some significant research out there that questions this task because of the developmental variance of students up into 2nd grade. Some kids come to our system with a lot of background support from their homes. I mean, they're read to themselves. Their parents are reading to them when they're in the womb, different things like that, And so they come to kindergarten and they are ahead above the rest. And when we see that against the norm, a lot of times that just elevates, that must be what it is. And you guys have heard me say before in previous reports that highly capable is not just about being smart. It's about thinking differently. It's about the way that they think. It's about the way that they see the world, and not just that they're, a 4.0, and that makes them that. So this would fit in a line with the developmental readiness for kids by 2nd grade to really clearly identify some of their needs. But it doesn't mean that if we have kids that come in as kindergartners and 1st graders, that we see that have these needs for accelerated learning in some form or another, we're going to address those as well. It's just the identification process starts at the 3rd grade.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And then what I talked about in terms of the identification process, the testing process, we're switching our testing from the COGAT test, which is one that we've used for a long time, which is a language-based test, to a non-language-based test. So that the barrier that's created potentially, most probably likely, by language, particularly for our English language learners, is going to be eliminated. So this is a test that some systems have started to use, and it is a non-language-based test. And it still has the same components, but at least it screens kids in without that language barrier. The COGAT has, other than English, it has Spanish and one other language, I don't remember exactly what that is, but we have more languages than that represented in our system. And so it's not able. So some systems that are really large and have dozens and dozens of language, they've talked directly with COGAT and said, what are you going to do about this? And they're going, well, we don't have much to do. So that's the kind of thing that we're moving around to take care of that. So what's the same? We're still identifying kids in 2nd and 5th grade. We're taking referrals for kids at all grades. And then students that surface in the first round of the assessment that we do, the screening assessment, we process all of these with our building HiCap coordinators. It's an MDT process, and then we give them the other two, the verbal and the quantitative portions, to then get a little bit more specific about what their areas of strength are. Our goals continue to try to, as I said, we're trying to see if we can identify any kids that have been traditionally, historically under-identified in our system. And we're continuing to try to understand, in a small system like ours, how do we provide services for highly capable kids when we don't have people that are specially trained to do this, pull-out programs, some of the kinds of things that other systems have. And so we're continually leaning in with our HiCap building coordinators, trying to find ways to differentiate, accelerate, find options within our current system, some flexibility within our current system to provide these kids some of the resources that they need.
Thank you.
That's just a big highlight for me. So.
First, I appreciate the changes to the program, and thank you for identifying that, because we have never been a wash and repeat. I know it's always been review each year, but I think these changes are very cool, and I appreciate you for looking at them in that way. One of my other questions, and I'm not looking for an answer now,
Okay.
but we have a number of outside, like community partners that support students at all levels in our system, and I'm just curious if there are community partners who can support our HiCap kids when we might not have the resources internally for that. And so,
Okay.
not a question you have to answer now, but just something that's maybe you could give to
But
the
something
person
I answered
coming
before I
after you.
retire.
Yeah. Or just something you pass on to the next person.
I just would also like to bring your attention, when Ed made that announcement, it really sounded like he said it was going to take 2 people to be able to do the job. Isn't that what it sounded like?
Pretty much.
It sounded like that to me.
You know what, I was wondering, because I haven't honestly seen the test, but does it ever test anything about their interpersonal skills? Like, does that go with all the other, is it just like more academic?
That's a great question, and no, it really doesn't. And in fact, one of the program pieces that we try to lean into and pay attention to, I should probably get in front of the microphone because it's recorded. One of the issues that highly capable kids oftentimes have are, it's not just the academics, but it's a social emotional part. They just see the world differently, and they're just sometimes a square peg in a round hole, and they don't necessarily fit. And, sometimes they want to leave class because they're bored and go somewhere and climb a tree. And
I thought that'd be kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
But teacher input can address that too, because I remember addressing that with a couple of my students.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one of the things that we try to do with them is we try to provide opportunities where they can do some things together a couple of times a year. And then they're kind of peas in a pod. We do some clustering in classrooms, so they have the opportunity to have some of those academic conversations and stuff together with kids that are like-minded. And also then try to provide that, help them understand that it's okay. I mean, I was listening to this based on your report. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
It's okay to be who you are. I mean, we want to push that. And we would, people miss the understanding that our kids that are highly capable, that are really good at school, it's really not a problem for them, that there's a struggle there.
Yes.
That they have, sometimes they don't feel like they fit in. And so thank you for that question, because I think it's a really important one.
Yeah, I've noticed that before, so I just wondered.
All right,
Thank you.
so each year, we come on the board to approve the High Top program. And so I will entertain a motion from someone other than me.
I move to approve the district's highly capable plan for the 2024-2025 academic year.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Now we get to the fun. So the next item on our agenda is an executive session. So the board will go into a meeting to review the performance of a public employee. Only announced topics will be discussed, which I just announced. No final action will be taken in executive session, and these discussions are confidential. So we estimate this to be about 30 minutes. So I will have to ask everyone who's not on the board.
Yes, the gavel yet.
Okay. We have, coming out of executive session, I will reconvene tonight's meeting at 8:29 p.m. And I have one motion that I will entertain. Way to go, guys.
I know,
We're
right?
all closed down. Do you need help on this one?
I gotta get my glasses on.
Okay, I move, okay, I got it. I move to extend the superintendent's contract 1 year to 2025 to 2028.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations. You're on the hook.
All right.
We were gonna try to prank you, it just didn't.
But we didn't have Nora to do it.
Should be good.
All right, board, it is a late night, but if there are any additional comments, board comments is last always, anything to add?
I have no additional comments, just thank you very much for the desserts.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed that Oreo cheesecake,
Yeah,
and we'll
very
save the
good.
cupcakes for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.